Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drake Wing Gaming. As some of you know me on Twitter, the Gaming Dragon. Today I'm coming back at you into the Let's Play episode of Tennessee Shuichi's Path. That's right, y'all, we're back with Show's Path, and I cannot wait to delve right back into this spicy content, y'all. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right back in, shall we? Alarm Chan, you are up, and let's go, girl! Alright. Even if Hayota-kun was the only other guy in our group, the knowledge that everyone said the three of us was eliminated is enough to make the place feel a lot quieter than usual. July 1st. Saturday. The day of reckoning. Maybe not. Walking around the grounds of the competition, I curiously scan the place, looking to see what other players are still around and making a mental note of it. I see a lot of the same faces I've grown accustomed to over the years, minus a few irregulars here and there. At the very least, it's a better way to spend my time than listening to Coach droning on and on about how we should treasure these memories or about how proud he is to see us get this far. I get that everyone is a little sentimental since Sai and I graduate this year, but I don't have the stomach for all this sugar. Plus, the mood has been weird since this morning. The first thing I noticed when I woke up was that Keisuke was nowhere to be found. Unlike the last couple of days where he at least hung around nearby to greet me when I woke up, Keisuke seems to have gone out of his way to avoid me, even taking a seat on the very back of the bus. Even Saya was puzzled by it, at least once I was able to drag her attention away from her own thoughts. I'm trying so hard not to let this all get to me, but it's difficult when they're so on edge. Alright, be careful when you pick Juno. Don't have to tell me that, lol. Every now and again I pull out my phone to reread Shuichi and I's earlier conversation, smiling as I remember some of the things he said. I still feel a little awkward about not saying it back, though. It's not like I don't want to say it. I do, I really do. But I don't want him to think that I'm only saying it because I feel like I have to. I want to make sure I mean it before I say it. Of course, going in circles with my thoughts like this is also doing me no favors. Other than that, I think things have been good between us lately, even if we were on shaky ground not too long ago. Shuichi has been much better about checking with me before he gets, handsy. Just the fact that he would bother to ask her or make sure I'm comfortable does so much to make me feel comfortable. It's a difficult feeling to explain. Knowing that he cares enough to make Knowing that he cares enough to make sure I'm okay with it makes me much more likely to be okay with it. At the very least, when he makes lewd jokes or comments now, I no longer feel my skin crawl. Instead, I'm usually pretty excited to see him, actually. Even though I'm looking forward to the competition and have this bittersweet feeling that I don't want it to end, the reality is that I also want to get back home so I can spend some time alone with Shuichi. I lean against the nearby wall, sighing and looking up at the sky, watching the clouds pass by as I think on everything I have to do today. I have 1 or 2 matches to play today, depending on whether I beat Keikun or not. Although I feel confident I have no doubts about my ability to win, I still don't want to come out being too cocky. That's when upsets are most likely to happen. Regardless, 2 matches. It's the same as yesterday, and the day before that. And yet, because it's the semifinals and finals, it feels like so much more. The pressure definitely increases with each passing day. It's hard to relax even when I have the time to myself. I'm already a jittery guy on a normal day, but it gets even worse when I'm like this. I close my eyes, taking a moment to try to breathe deep and steady myself. I'm no good to anyone if I go off the rails. It's such a weird feeling. I've never felt this nervous or anxious during any other competition before. I wonder what could be the cause. At least knowing that Saya is also a mess makes me feel a bit better. Usually I would try to talk to my friends in a situation like this. Even if they can't say the exact thing I need to hear to feel better, they can at least distract me from whatever's bothering me. But right now, that seems to be off the table. If it's at all possible, Saya-chan and Keisuke seem to be even more of a mess than I am, which is by itself a feat. I can understand why they're both feeling that way, although our reasons are all different. All 3 of us are under a type of pressure we haven't experienced before. For Saya and I, this is our last year. For Keisuke, this is the first time he's gotten this far in the competition. We're all feeling the weight of expectation on our shoulders. It'd be unkind for me to judge any of them for it. If anything, the part that scares me the most is just how detached and rational my thoughts seem to get when I'm like this. 1 second, y'all. It is orange juice time. OJ time. The good OJ, not the bad OJ. I usually panic when I feel pressured, with my thoughts going everywhere all at once, but now, it's chilling to be this coherent and calm even as I feel the anxiety rising. I take a particularly deep breath, feeling my lungs inflate slowly and completely until they are at capacity, feeling my whole body being invigorated. Then I take care to breathe out once more. If I can't distract myself, then I'll at least look for some other way of keeping myself stabilized on my own. What did I even used to do in situations like this when I was younger? I've become such a recluse since middle school. I don't even remember what it was like to strike a conversation with random people. Come to think of it, it feels like a whole lifetime ago. I don't even feel like the same person. The mere thought of going up to complete strangers and striking up conversations as if it were nothing makes me cringe. Yet, I do remember doing that a lot. Whenever I wasn't talking to my club's coaches and hanging on to their every word, I was hanging out with Sai and Shuichi, striking up conversations with other random players, or hanging out with Tanabe. Well, that ship has long sailed. I'm not going there anytime soon, nor do I feel like I could strike up conversations with total strangers as I am right now. I guess I'll look for Coach Mikado. Don't really expect him to be able to do much, but he's surprised me a few times over the last few months, so maybe. I'll look around for him a bit. The crowd is a lot thinner compared to the last 2 days of the competition, but even then, he's still a little difficult to spot. Seriously, it shouldn't be this hard to find him. He's a huge green crocodile. It's not like there's that many crocodiles in Japan in the first place. This shouldn't be this difficult. Eventually, I managed to find him talking to a few other adults that seemed to be a mixture of event organizers and coaches from other clubs. I hang around at a distance, unsure if I should say something and interrupt them. Soon enough, however, one of them notices me and points to me out of the rest of the group. I panic ever so slightly when I see them all looking my way, but Coach says something to them and waves to the group as he walks away. What? Ignore. Okay. Did you need something, Yuichi-san? Oh, so sorry to interrupt. Sorry, what's with the sudden coyness? That's not like you at all. I am well aware of that. You don't need to point it out to me, useless old man. Never mind, I don't need anything. Oh, come on, don't be like that. You already came all this way. You clearly need something from me. Crocodile frowns, looking down at me with a surprisingly stern expression that I am not used to seeing on him. If anything, he's always so annoyingly jovial and flippant that it's hard to ever take him seriously. I guess. I just had a lot on my mind. Are you nervous? I'm feeling the anxiety before your matches start to settle in. The crocodile cuts right to the main issue so suddenly that I'm caught off guard. I must have looked properly shocked at his question because he smiles crookedly upon seeing my face, showing some of those teeth that he usually tries his best to keep hidden. As much as you might not seem to believe me, I have been doing this for a while, Yuichi-kun. You're hardly the first athlete I've mentored, and if you by far the most combative one. What do you mean? The crocodile snorts, shaking his head in amusement. What? You think I never noticed how little you seem to trust my input? Granted, my particular brand of coaching relies on a lot of observing the players quietly and only intervening when absolutely necessary as to help them become more independent and self-sufficient, so I'm used to a little bit of distrust. Are you serious? So what, you're intentionally hands-off and wait to help us be more independent and self-sufficient? Even if that is true, which I'm not at all convinced by, how is anyone supposed to know that if you don't say so? But let's see, I'll admit I'm a little surprised. You've never come to me for help before. I never really figured you needed direct intervention before now either, so I'm a bit moved. I guess you did say before that you never altered my training regimen because you felt I was already working on everything I needed to. Correct. The crocodile nods, his lips curling into a faint grin. In terms of your physique and your skill set, you're already at the top of your age group. Japanese players in general tend to struggle with the physicality of certain sports and need to rely on trickiness or technical skills. But you have a physique that is quite gifted and uncommon by our standards. 1 second, y'all. OJ time. Took 2 little edibles before this, so I'm just waiting until I blast off into outer space. Alright. Well, none of that is news to me, but it's not like my physique is that great outside of our very small pond. I'd be downright average by international standards, a fact that's been more than proven to be even when Murasaki-senpai told me about how much he struggled when he left the country. That aside, you are pretty much the golden standard when it comes to self-reliance. You quickly figure out what it is that you need to work on, and, even if you dragged your feet a fair bit during the last 2 years, we'd always put the work in areas that needed it. If anything, your issues have always been much more down to your mental state. Your improvement has been stagnant since you entered high school. At first, I thought you were just a particularly promising middle school player who peaked rather early, but every now and then I would see glimpses of that potential. That convinced me there was something else going on. The crocodile sighs, placing a hand on his waist and lowering his head in frustration. For the very first time ever, I start seeing what could be the serious side of the man. I didn't know he watched me this closely, let alone that he had this many thoughts about my progress. Although, I have to admit, just a particularly promising middle school player who peaked early hurts to hear. I tried figuring out ways to break you out of your rut or get you back into a better mental state, but most of my attempts either didn't work or weren't noticed. You did? Of course, I was the one who first suggested Keisuke-kun seek you out as a practice partner during his freshman year. I had Sayatan take the position as captain, thinking she could use it to push you into working harder again. I organized training matches with other school teams over the last few years to try and give you opponents that might energize. Honestly, I had all but given up. It wasn't until I brought Morisaki and the others from the U.S. that I saw any kind of success, and that one was a total Hail Mary. The school didn't even cover all the costs involved with bringing them here, and here earlier than intended, so I had to pay for a fair bit out of pocket. Seriously? The crocodile frowned, staring at me in what I could only be described as a mixture of disappointment and disbelief. Whatever you might think of me, I take my job very seriously, Yuichi-kun. Seeing as such a talented young athlete underperforming and losing love for the sport I adore so much hurts me. I didn't know any of that. I mean, yeah, he has been a lot more involved over the past couple months. Even my notoriously low opinion of him has been on a high recently, but by this much? I didn't know any of that. I didn't even know you liked tennis that much. I thought you just coached it because you had to. Why would I go out of my way to coach a club for a sport I don't care about? It's not like the pay isn't that great either. I barely make more than I would if I were just the school's PE teacher. Well, Shuichi told me that you filled in for their coach once, so I thought you just learned about whatever sport you happened to have to teach. Bah! I learned about volleyball, basketball, and other sports because I had to as a PE teacher. I know tennis because I used to play it. You did? Wait, hold on, that's news to me. Yeah, God, is it 20 years already? Good grief, I'm old. Either way, I wasn't a particularly remarkable player back in time as a junior. I wasn't the best in the country or anything, but I placed high in every competition and did well enough to be confident in my skills. I decided to go pro, even if it was a big risk since I didn't come from a rich family or anything. I took odd jobs working part-time to pay for my club fees and my travel costs, lodging, and all the things an aspiring professional player needs to worry about. What happened? Ignore. That. At that, Coach's expression noticeably darkens. He looks away from me, his nostrils flaring and his mouth contorting into a bitter smile. I worked too hard, spread myself too thin. But with working 2 part-time jobs at a time, practicing so hard, going on trips where the prize money barely covered the cost of playing in the first place, I started making my way up the ranking slowly, but the stress and fatigue started wearing on my body. 1 second, y'all. OJ time. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck, that's the stuff. I started developing some pain in my left elbow and wrist, but I pushed through it by taking lots of painkillers and anti-inflammatories. I kept it from my coaches, too, since I knew they would make me stop playing. When you're just in your early 20s, you really do think you're invincible and all. And once you start getting desperate, well... Wait, don't tell me! The crocodile's expression softens. As his eyes meet mine, he hangs his head down in shame and defeat. Like I said, I worked too hard. Before I knew it, the damage was pretty much irreversible. I had just made my way to the Challenger Series and felt like my career was finally going to hit its high point. Then, poof. At 22, it was over. I still struggle with full range of motion on my wrists, and I can't play for long periods of time. Are you serious? That's awful. I didn't know about any of this. That Coach was a former professional player is already shocking news enough, but to have his career end like that, It's why I keep such a close eye on my players from a distance. Players need experience learning to think for themselves and figuring out their needs when they still have a safety net to fall back on if necessary. Otherwise, they get so used to being directed and micromanaged that they never learn to think for themselves. So when they finally start being more independent, they don't know how to make good decisions. They might start disagreeing with their coaches because their new taste of independence makes them defiant, or they might not have the resources to get regular enough coaching. Players who have just become young adults are surprisingly vulnerable. They have a lot of independence they've never experienced before. Many of them don't have the resources to consult with the proper professionals as often as they should, and they tend to think they know better because of course they do. Coach's forlorn expression finally breaks out into a genuine toothy smile, looking at me like there's something so funny that I don't know about. I mean, really, have you met players your age? You all are a nightmare, and it only tends to get worse before it gets better. We're not that bad, says the one who constantly makes a point to doubt me on almost everything I say. I can't deny that. I'm sorry. What for? I don't regret any of it. But your career was... I may not have the career I imagined, but it doesn't mean I'm not happy with what I have. I found a way to use my experience to do some good. Besides, there's very few things as satisfying as seeing young athletes blossoming under my wing. Not literally, of course. Just because this wasn't my first choice doesn't mean I don't truly enjoy my job. There's no point being stuck in the past, Yuichi-kun. If you take anything from what this old man tells you, make it that. Life may take turns, but so long as you make the best of what you're given, you should land on your feet. I appreciate it, though I get the feeling this conversation got a lot more philosophical than I first intended. Fair enough, fair enough. I guess I'm a little sentimental since I know you and Sayatan will be graduating soon. As if he'd snap back to the personality I expect out of him, the crocodile starts laughing uproariously while giving my back slaps that nearly send me tumbling to the ground. I'm glad to hear that will be so dearly missed. Of course you will, but I'll also be proud to see what the two of you can achieve once you do. But either way, getting back to the matter at hand, you said you're struggling with nerves, right? A little bit, but I doubt I'm the only one. If anything, Sayachan and Keisuke are in worse shape than me. Yes, I'm aware. I've already had a word with those other two. You did? Yuichi-kun, just because you never come to me about anything doesn't mean the other students don't as well. Oh. I really am the odd one out here, aren't I? Do you have any pre-match rituals that you do to help yourself calm down? Pre-match? No, not really. I mean, I have a pre-serve routine to center myself when I'm playing, but I've never done something before a match. It might not help you right now, but... I'm gonna go ahead and pause it right there. It's about to go off. Yep. Thank you all so much for watching. Show is back. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, leave a super thanks, or a tip if you can, it always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.